You wake up. At first, something feels wrong. The air smells strange, not like the usual smoke from fireplaces, something heavier, stronger. You step outside, and the sky above London is glowing orange. Somewhere nearby, a building is burning, but fires are common in this city. London is built from wood. Houses lean over narrow streets. Shops store hay, coal, oil, and timber. Small fires happen all the time. Most of them are quickly controlled, so people return to their homes, back to sleep. But this fire is different because the wind is rising, and within hours, the flames will begin swallowing the largest city in England. In the year 1666, London is already one of the largest and busiest cities in Europe. Nearly 400,000 people live inside and around its crowded streets. Merchants arrive from across the continent, ships travel up the Thames every day, and markets overflow with goods from all over the world. But despite its importance, London is still a medieval city in many ways. Most buildings are constructed from timber frames filled with plaster, and the upper floors of houses often extend outward over the street. In many places, the buildings lean so close together that neighbors can almost shake hands from opposite windows. The streets below are narrow, uneven, and constantly crowded with carts, animals, and pedestrians. Shops store flammable materials such as oil, tar, coal, wood, and straw, often stacked dangerously close to homes and warehouses. Open flames are everywhere, in kitchens, bakeries, blacksmith shops, and candle makers' workshops. Small fires break out regularly in London, but people have grown used to them. Most are quickly contained before they spread. Because of that, few residents truly believe that one day a single fire could grow powerful enough to threaten the entire city. The disaster begins quietly. In the early hours of September 2nd, 1666, while most of London is asleep, a fire starts inside a small bakery on Pudding Lane. The bakery belongs to Thomas Farriner. Like most bakeries of the time, the ovens burned late into the night. Large brick ovens stay hot for hours after baking bread, and the building itself is filled with dry wooden beams, flour dust, and stored fuel. Sometime after midnight, something goes wrong. Perhaps a spark escapes the oven. Perhaps a piece of burning wood falls onto the floor. Within minutes, flames begin spreading through the lower part of the building. At first, the fire seems small, the kind of accident that occasionally happens in crowded wooden cities. But the problem is not just the fire, it's the conditions around it. The houses on Pudding Lane stand extremely close together. Their upper floors lean over the narrow street. Wooden walls, dry timber beams, and tightly packed rooftops create the perfect environment for flames to travel. Soon, the fire climbs up the bakery walls and reaches the roof. Burning embers rise into the night air. Carried by a growing wind, those sparks land on nearby houses. One roof begins to burn, then another, and before the city fully understands what is happening, the fire has already begun spreading down the street. London in the 1600s is a city built almost entirely from wood. Most homes are constructed using timber frames packed with plaster and clay. But the structure itself is dry, aged wood that has been exposed to years of smoke, sun, and weather. Many buildings are several stories tall, and the upper floors often extend outward over the narrow streets below. In some places, houses lean so closely toward each other that neighbors across the street can almost shake hands from their windows. This design saves space in a crowded city, but it creates a dangerous environment when fire appears. The streets of London are tight and twisting, barely wide enough for carts to pass. Air moves quickly through these corridors, and when wind pushes through them, it acts like a bellows feeding a flame. Inside the buildings, the danger grows even greater. Shops and warehouses store highly flammable materials, barrels of oil, stacks of firewood, tar used for ships, coal for heating, and large quantities of straw and cloth. Bakeries, blacksmith workshops, and kitchens all rely on open flames that burn throughout the day and night. All it takes is a single spark landing on a dry rooftop or wooden beam. Once one building catches fire, the flames can leap easily to the next. And in a city packed as tightly as London, a small fire can very quickly become something much larger. As the fire spreads through the narrow streets of London, the city begins to wake in confusion and fear. At first, many residents believe it is just another small fire somewhere in the crowded districts near the river. Fires are not unusual in a city built almost entirely from timber, but within minutes, the scale of the disaster becomes impossible to ignore. Church bells begin ringing across the neighborhoods, warning people to wake up and escape. Windows open. Voices shout through the streets. Families rush outside, still half-dressed, trying to understand what is happening. When they look toward the eastern districts of the city, they see something terrifying. A wall of orange light rising above the rooftops. The fire is spreading quickly, much faster than anyone expected. Soon, the streets fill with people carrying whatever they can save. Wooden carts roll through the crowded roads loaded with furniture, clothes, blankets, and food. Some people drag heavy chests filled with coins or family valuables. Others carry children in their arms while trying to guide frightened animals through the chaos. Smoke thickens in the air. Ash begins falling like dark snow. The sound of cracking timber echoes as buildings collapse behind the advancing flames. Horses panic in the crowded streets. Neighbors shout warnings to one another. Many residents begin moving toward the open spaces near the River Thames, hoping the water will protect them from the fire, but the flames are spreading faster than anyone can organize an escape. And slowly, the terrible realization begins to spread through the crowd. This is not just another fire. The entire city may be burning. As the fire spreads across London, city officials and residents desperately try to stop it, but firefighting in the 17th century is extremely primitive. There are no professional fire brigades, no modern fire engines. Most of the work depends on ordinary citizens forming long bucket lines, passing water from wells and the nearby River Thames toward the flames. Hand-powered pumps spray weak streams of water onto burning buildings, but the pressure is too low to reach the highest floors. Against a fire of this size, these methods are almost useless. There is only one tactic that might actually work. Destroy buildings before the fire reaches them. Workers use ropes, hooks, and gunpowder to pull houses down, hoping to create empty spaces where the flames will have nothing left to burn. But this strategy requires quick decisions. And early in the disaster, city authorities hesitate. Many property owners refuse to allow their homes to be destroyed. Others argue over who will pay for the damage. Those delays prove disastrous, because by the time large sections of buildings are finally demolished, the fire has already grown too powerful. The wind continues driving flames from roof to roof. Burning embers fly across entire streets. New fires ignite faster than workers can tear houses down, and slowly, the terrible realization spreads through the city. London is losing the fight. By the third day, the fire is no longer just a series of burning buildings. It has become something far more terrifying, a firestorm. The heat, rising from thousands of burning houses, creates powerful currents of air that pull fresh oxygen into the flames. The wind grows stronger as the fire feeds itself, drawing the fire across the city faster and faster. Entire streets ignite almost at once. Flames leap from rooftop to rooftop as if the buildings were connected by invisible bridges of fire. The narrow medieval streets of London turn into corridors of heat and smoke. People trying to escape feel the temperature rising around them. Some describe the air itself as burning. Embers swirl through the sky like a storm of glowing sparks, carried by the wind far beyond the main fire. These embers land on distant rooftops and instantly ignite new fires, spreading destruction even farther across the city. Witnesses later say the sound is unforgettable, not just the crackling of wood or the collapse of buildings, but a deep, continuous roar, like a massive furnace consuming the entire city. Warehouses filled with oil, tar, timber, and coal begin to explode as the flames reach them. Huge bursts of fire shoot into the sky. Walls collapse. Church towers fall. Even the massive stone structure of St. Paul's Cathedral cannot escape the heat. Wooden scaffolding surrounding the cathedral catches fire, turning the great building into a giant torch visible across the city. By now, the fire is no longer something people believe they can stop. London is burning, and the flames are moving through the city faster than anyone thought possible. By the third and fourth days of the disaster, the scale of destruction becomes impossible to ignore. The fire has spread far beyond the narrow streets where it first began. Entire districts of London are now burning at the same time. From the riverbanks to the crowded markets inside the city walls, flames move through neighborhood after neighborhood. The sky above London glows deep orange, even during the daytime. Thick smoke spreads across the city and drifts for miles beyond its walls. People watch in shock as familiar streets disappear behind walls of fire. Homes that had stood for generations collapse in minutes. Markets, shops, and warehouses filled with goods are swallowed by flames. The heat becomes so intense that people standing hundreds of meters away can feel it on their faces. Many residents gather along the open spaces near the River Thames, watching helplessly as the fire moves through the city. Some families sit beside piles of salvaged belongings, furniture, clothing, tools. Everything they managed to carry before their homes were lost. The sound of the fire dominates the air. Roaring flames, crashing rooftops, exploding storage houses filled with oil, tar, and timber. Even some of the most famous buildings in London are threatened. Parts of the great St. Paul's Cathedral are surrounded by burning streets as the firestorm moves closer. By the time the flames finally begin to weaken, the damage is staggering. More than 13,000 houses have been destroyed. Nearly 90 churches lie in ruins. Entire neighborhoods have vanished. For thousands of residents, the city they once knew no longer exists. London, one of the largest cities in Europe, now stands as a vast field of smoke, ash, and broken walls. When the flames finally died down, London looks almost unrecognizable. Entire districts have vanished. Where crowded streets once stood, there are now fields of ash, broken stone, and smoking ruins. Thousands of families wander through the wreckage, searching for anything that might have survived the fire. For many residents, everything is gone. Homes, businesses, possessions, and years of work destroyed in only a few days. Nearly 80,000 people are suddenly without shelter. Temporary camps appear in the open fields outside the city. Markets attempt to reopen among the ruins. Merchants set up makeshift stalls just to keep trade alive. But while the devastation is enormous, the fire also forces the city to confront a hard truth. London cannot be rebuilt the same way it was before. City leaders begin discussing new plans for reconstruction. Architects propose wider streets to slow future fires. New building laws are introduced requiring brick and stone instead of timber. Wooden overhanging houses are banned. Urban planning becomes far more organized. The rebuilding will take decades, but slowly, building by building, street by street, London begins rising again, stronger, safer, and forever changed by the disaster of 1666. What you've just experienced is a reconstruction of London during the Great Fire of 1666, one of the most devastating urban disasters in European history. The streets, buildings, and atmosphere shown in this video were recreated using AI reconstruction technology to visualize how the city looked during the day everything burned.